We're all very aware of the effects that the pandemic in particular has had over the last 12 months or so now on the effect of enterprises in the marketplace, and also specifically on the acceleration for the need for business transformation for both public and private sector clients. These organisations need not only now to drive more efficiencies, but they've got to be more resilient, they've got to be able to be more agile, and they've got to be able to, in many cases, in many markets, respond to heightened customer expectations. So we're absolutely seeing that happening in the market. And a great example of that is the e-commerce market, where I think analysts were predicting the stage of growth that we're already seeing today wouldn't be here until 2025. So we're absolutely seeing in certain sectors and across many markets the effect that this acceleration for business transformation is having. So this is meaning that there's a heightened need, obviously, for collaboration between many different types of players in the B2B technology market: technology vendors, advisories, global systems integrators and ISVs. And the focus of our conversation today is how, as players in this marketplace, we can actually, are already and actually going forward, respond to those needs that our enterprises have in the market to be able to have shorter term wins, accelerated time to vision, accelerated time to value that they can experience within their businesses. They can get past their boards, their business case, to absolutely be able to see returns that they need to see in the timeframes that they see it. So let's start the discussion by first of all looking and getting experiences from everyone around what you're seeing in the market. Is that representative? And maybe Paul, if I could come to you first, actually, to ask that question. Is that what you're seeing in the marketplace from a KPMG perspective in your clients?
What's interesting now is as I think all of us have adapted and our customers have adapted to the new world. You know, the urgent and the immediate transformation that is available has been put in place. What we're now seeing is probably slightly different trends towards, you know, what does that longer term transformation look like? How do you, as an organization, enable transformation in the context that we're currently working in, which is obviously very remote, very digitally enabled, and I think that is causing an evolution in terms of what we've been seeing in the market. A realization that actually there are challenges in the current working environment for starting new programs, for example. You know, accelerating programs that are already in place is one thing. Starting a new program is another. You know, really moving beyond the kind of the emergency transformation that colleagues and customers expect into a, you know, a longer term different way of working for your customers, really providing a different type of service and redesigning services for customers in a different way, and likewise for employees. That you know, the traditional challenges of transformation are still there, and the resistances, the inabilities sometimes for organizations to move quickly to transform are still there. They were accelerated for a while. I think there is a continuation of that, but there's certainly also an acknowledgement, and we're certainly seeing our customers being challenged by the need to really do things in a different way to address some of the more traditional problems that they have and then they still have.
In terms of partnerships, I've been in countless brainstorming sessions where we've had technology people, consultancy people, advisory people, as well as designers and creatives all around the table to solutionize, identify quick and rapid solutions for customers, right? And the purpose behind doing so is obviously also having ripple effects now. I feel that we are stepping into a new normal in terms of partnership. So I think that's an interesting development as well, the new normal of partnerships, if one may speak about that. In terms of expectations from customers, it's definitely, we are seeing, and again, I'm in a channel role, so I'm not directly facing customers, but I think there is you would have to look at case by case. Some customers want us to engage earlier on, between the likes of KPMG and Microsoft, early conversation type of alignment in terms of setting strategies together, etc., etc. In other cases, they of course want the likes of KPMG to remain agnostic and objective in their approach. So I think there's both sides of the coin. I mean, when Microsoft are properly embedded into the business, we're still seeing early alignment in order to go quicker to market and quicker to solution.
One of our responsibilities for our customers is to really take some of the innovation that Microsoft are driving on the technology front and really put that into the context of how it can deliver an outcome for our customers' business, whether it's for their employees, for their customers, whether it's cost savings, whether it's additional services, new ways of working. And I think so. I think there is an element of taking that innovation, finding the value for customers, and then repeating that value, it and taking it to market with Microsoft, with other partners in the ecosystem to create that multiplier effect to the value that we see for one customer. Because actually, certainly from an industry perspective, and even from a broader market, in times of significant change that we've seen over the last year, there are what works for one organization may well answer a lot of problems for another organization.
And we are seeing that we're having to design sales and marketing programs differently because we're seeing that they want proven innovation. So tell me where you've done it before. I want the security that is tried to test it. And to Paul's point earlier as well, it's around that sort of speed to value. So basically, how do we start small? Because I don't want to go and justify quite a large budget or significant budget and transformation into the board. So, do we start with one business unit? Do we look at a set number of KPIs, be that cost, be that capital expenditure, whatever that is? So I think we are seeing changes in behaviour. So it is really changing how we're supporting clients in the sort of go-to-market in terms of sales and marketing. And it's also what support can you give us to help make the case to our internal stakeholders. So tell me what the implementation process looks like. Tell me what the business case will show, the time to value. So definitely we're seeing some shifts there, which are impacting on sales and marketing techniques.
In the past, you would have, you would limit the physical parameters of a meeting would limit the participation components. There is a much broader opportunity to involve a bigger set of stakeholders in a shorter time. You can get people together. We all probably have far too many video calls now, and that's a reflection on the fact that it is much easier to get everyone together. So we have more meetings. But that also does allow a broader set of people to be engaged in conversations, and that has its strengths and weaknesses. But I think that trend is here to stay now, and it also reflects how we partner. When we talk about if we're partnering with an ISV or partnering with Microsoft, what historically would be a face-to-face meeting, we would meet to discuss something, and that meeting would be planned into people's diaries. We now potentially will jump on a video call the same day, and so there's just a facilitation element to things that are automatically speeded up.
And you mentioned industry. I want to make the point of industry because Microsoft in the last year, created what we call the industry priority scenarios. And what is the way that our sellers also approach their customers. So I think it's important to map those scenarios with the solutions, the solutions that the partners are creating, in this case, the GSIs, because it's the way that we can jointly go to market with the GSIs and also with the ISVs, and we have been mentioned during the conversation also the collaboration piece and the network piece. I have seen also in the last couple of years an increasing or a slightly change in the way that we approach to market. So instead of going separately, going jointly, the GSI, the advisor, the ISV, and the Microsoft seller. I think it's more an ecosystem that presents in front of the customer. So I think that alignment is for me is the starting point. And then once we have these industry priority scenarios, try to figure out for each concrete, in our case, EMEA is a broader region. For this big region that is EMEA, which are the top geographies, for example, to land on a specific scenario for one industry.
I think it's an orchestration role as well, isn't there? Because almost nothing's easy, but getting your joint point of view out into the market But then it's really thinking about how you can accelerate the opportunities then. And that's the sort of making sure there is a governance model there to say who's leading the sale. You know, are you meeting at least every other week to look at where you are with the opportunities, what support you require? So there's a bit of a sort of machine around it, from coming up with a decision to go to market together, and how you actually work all the way through the sales cycle.
So what we tend to do is, sure, we package up the solutions, or the propositions, I should say, because sometimes it's led by a consultancy type of proposition from the likes of KPMG. Package that up, but then in terms of taking that to market, we need to add the context in which the solution lives, right?
Yeah.
That is crucial for it to land with the business stakeholders on the other side. We can speak technology, but going with KPMG, we need to speak business, and we need to speak to those business decision makers as well as the CTO, etc.
Specifically to the question in terms of stakeholders, I think there is a difference. I think there was a real empowerment of the transformational leads, whether it's chief digital officer, CIO, or another C-level stakeholder who's responsible for your transformation. They were very empowered at the outset of the changes we've seen. I think had a lot more ability to push through a transformation agenda with a lot of support from, let's say, holistically, the board were behind the need to support those individuals driving that transformation. And I think now, again, to reiterate the theme, I think there's that emergency work and that necessity to move super quickly to respond to COVID is now, ultimately now, normalizing into a kind of, a hybrid of that kind of traditional way of working, where there are a broader set of stakeholders and there is a broader requirement to actually work across the C-level stakeholder community to really align the benefits for the particular functions, or align on a strategy that has support across the stakeholder groups to drive transformation. And that takes more time. That does require, I think, more effort to really help contextualize for the particular area where the benefits are, what the outcome you're looking to achieve, and how they need to play a role in supporting that transformation, and they need to commit to being more involved in the transformation, and that is always takes longer, and by definition becomes less agile and slower to achieve.
I think that I can think of two key things, but Oscar, feel free to add. So in terms of what Paul mentioned earlier, it's, how do you actually do a sort of sales call, even work through a solution with a customer? So using new technology like Miro boards, it's those types of new technology plugins to actually live articulate your solution and get feedback is pretty critical. From our perspective as well, it's a lot about using technologies such as Soapbox, where you can record your pitch or your presentation at home and send it on to the customer. And I think also there's a bit of email sort of lethargy as well. So, how can you look at alternative ways around social to reach out?
We need to address, for me, industry issues, for sure. I really think that if you land into a specific industry, with a specific industry business issue, and for sure, general topics like could be the sustainability one. I think that this is my view.
The on-demand element, and sorry to use another kind of cliche, but the right time, right challenge, right type of message, right, is becoming more important than ever. So the kind of live webinar element was something we used very early on. We quite immediately saw a fatigue around that, right? Where people was like, I'm not going to sit here, look at this webinar at this exact point when I can check in and do it tonight, and I'd rather just hang out with my kids at the moment. So that whole on demand, make everything relevant in the moment for people, rather than trying to push them into experience this now or view this now.
But ultimately, I do think customers, the most mature customers, the most successful programs, it does take a team. It takes a partnership between us and our clients, between us, the technology vendor, and our clients, the client and the technology vendors. And I think the same said for how you execute these type of campaigns. I think it is really important to, where possible, bring together the best of different organizations to deliver the right outcome. I think there's still a requirement to continue to innovate in this particular marketing execution, sales execution space, particularly in a business-to-business context. I think that it is a very different way of working at the moment, and I'm not sure it's a better way of working for delivering the best outcomes for customers. Despite the significant amount of time we're spending interacting with customers over video conference, where there were small gaps in lockdowns and we were allowed to meet appropriately face to face. You did see you were reminded, I was reminded certainly, of the ability to sit down in a room and ideate and work through problems and really bounce problems off and get the best of the different players and partners in that conversation's inputs is something that I think we will go back to, because I do think it adds an additional layer of value. And so that hybrid kind of scenario that we're going to end up with, I suspect, is going to be really interesting and require us to continue to evolve and innovate towards, particularly from a marketing perspective, where the face-to-face interactions in a marketing context become a lot more challenging, and probably for the foreseeable future will be challenging.
So I think this is something that for sure is not like before, the Microsoft people or the KPMG people visiting the ITs or the CDOs and asking for a meeting, 2 hours meeting, in a meeting room. I think now we have the opportunity to sell a 15 minutes podcast pill or whatever, to an HR director, for example, to a finance director. So I think that this is
it can be more specific in our message.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it's sort of the words hybrid, I guess, isn't it? So whereas your clients are thinking about what the hybrid workplace looks like and the challenges from a consulting and a technology point of view, and the same thing plays out in a sales and marketing approach to what you've said, Juana, in terms of what is the best that we take from the virtual world and the physical world, and then jointly go to market with a very good, tight proposition and a package solution that is easier to buy. I think that's the utopia going forward.
What's crucial there is then, once we've landed that in the market, how do we then spin that up? How do we then take that forward together? And how do we give customers what they're really expecting from to such massive organizations? And sure, it may come down to add an ISV that would support the offering, etc. But I think what's crucial is coming together in the next stage as well, because we've gone to market early on, right? They've seen the joint proposition. As I mentioned before, we've packaged that up. We've shown them that we have that joint industry expertise, etc., etc. What happens next becomes crucial. And I know Paul, Juana, we're working on various programs on how do we co-design, how do we leverage those blended teams that are now easier to bring together into the virtual space to support customers with our kind of joint strategic minds to take them on that journey.
You look at the marketing funnel and how you start off by trying to reach a very large audience, and then you nurture through, and then there are different techniques, and we touched on account-based marketing, and I think that hybrid approach that Alison touched on is going to be the norm in the future. So how do we adapt that approach to filling the funnel while at the same time really creating enough value at the lower end of the funnel to get customers to be able to make a decision and make it in an efficient way? That's the juggling game that we're going to have to work through, and I think it will be utilising that hybrid approach in some form or fashion and continuing to innovate through how that works is the right way. But then to Oscar's point, I think actually when you get towards the end, the lower end of that funnel, really the teams working together with our customers in partnership, really deep diving in terms of understanding our customers, really understanding their business, understanding their industry challenges, coming up with, taking what is a broad approach, but then really individualizing it to a customer's need and the outcome the customer wants to achieve. I think we do, we've got to be careful to avoid falling into the trap of selling the customer what we want to sell them rather than actually what they need or what they want to buy.
There's a new era, right? And again, sorry. But that new era of partnership, I really hope and think that the kind of as close as we've gotten due to the horrible pandemic that is going on out there. But the kind of positive side of that is that we've grown closer as partners, and I think and hope that we're going to continue that journey together, because now great traction in the earlier stages of these go-to-market journeys. We are taking steps into kind of getting closer and closer throughout that entire journey, and I think and hope that that's something that can continue.
For sure, I mean, this COVID crisis has brought years of change, no, in the way that companies do business. But I think that a lot of them are here to stay. So I think that is for me my, I don't know what I thought. No, I mean, a lot of them are here to stay, and one thing that is it has to drive that is the concept of network or ecosystem. So I think it's really clear that due to that, we are all more connected.
It's been a challenging year. It's been challenging for our customers. It's been challenging for us all on a personal level. But I think there's also been some of the most exciting projects I've been involved in my career, and some of the most interesting conversations and value that I've been able to deliver to customers has been over the last year. I think I'd say a lot of positives about what we've been able to help customers do, and really, the partnership of Microsoft, KPMG has been able to do for our customers has really been accelerated over the last year. And so I think I'm very optimistic that actually the momentum that creates is something we can carry forward.
I share that same optimism. I think looking at everybody and all our clients, they've shown incredible resilience as well as thinking outside the box. So unlike the sort of Gartner's cycle of when a new technology comes on board, I'm hoping that we're not going to delve into the trough of disillusionment, but we're gonna keep going the way we are, and keep innovating. So yeah, optimistic too.
Yeah, and I also think it's enabled all as humans actually to connect more in some ways. I know we can't physically, but actually it's made us all much more aware of everyone's difficulties and challenges on a personal level, which I think has actually helped business conversations and discussions. To your point, Paul, we're all driving towards a common goal, is to help organisations get where they need to be and be resilient, drive forward and be successful in what is a challenging situation in the market.